Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran and it's time to dive into Subtlety. This spec has gotten pretty popular for this raid Sanctum of Domination, and it's performing really well in all forms of PvE, raiding, Mythic Plus. It's pretty competitive spec, and it looks like Subtlety is kind of slightly ahead of Assassination and Outlaw depending on how you view the spec, depending on which content, but safe to say that Subtlety is doing fantastic. And I think it's worth covering Subtlety for patch 9.1 with everything you need to know to get your Subtlety rogues up and running for PvE for this 9.1 patch. So let's dive into the Subtlety Rogue Guide for Sanctum of Domination and Season 2 Mythic Plus Season of Shadowlands. First, we'll cover a variety of different topics in this video. One of the things I'll mention at the very start is really get to know what sims are and what simming is like. It's a good idea to research it if you are thinking of playing your rogue more than casually. But this video will hopefully cover everything that you need as someone who's just starting out rogue, trying to give it a try, maybe as a brand new alt or potentially a main swap. But if you are thinking of playing your rogue seriously, learning how to use sims and raid bots in the future is going to be very helpful. So let's talk covenants. Covenants for rogues, there's a lot of different options for what you could run, and it really is up to you. There are some sims that are showing that certain covenants are ahead, but whether it's a single target situation or hectic ad cleave situation, at current renown levels and at later renown levels. So there are slight advantages whether you're one covenant or another, depending on the content that you're running. But unlike some of the other classes and specs in the game, we don't really have the one covenant that's BIS. All four covenants are valid and beautiful. But if you did want someone just to tell you which covenant to pick, just so you don't really have to do your own research, Venthyr seems like a really strong, solid choice for Subtlety. In particular, there are some slight advantages if you end up going Venthyr for a variety of different content. Taking a look at the talents, we're going to start off in the first row with Weapon Master. Weapon Master generally ends up being the better choice for a single target. This is something you're going to want to run in raid situations. I also prefer it in Mythic Pluses, especially on tyrannical weeks where bosses are going to be more of an issue. Premeditation, however, is also useful, particularly in Mythic Pluses. Entering Shadow Dance or into Stealth allows your next Shadow Strike to give you 10 seconds of Slice and Dice for free. If you're someone who really does not like managing Slice and Dice at all in Mythic Pluses and would rather spend your comp points on offensive finishers, Premed is a decent choice. Weapon Master still, however, is going to be better in pure single target situations. Level 25 row, Shadow Focus is the best choice. It reduces the energy cost of your abilities while in Stealth or in Shadow Dance, which smooths out your rotation, and you are going to need all that energy to max out the damage during your dance windows. In a level 30 row, Deeper Strat is just outperforming the other two in the row. It is a pretty solid talent. In Mythic Pluses, it lets you store more comp points, which means more damage output. This one just ends up being the better choice numerically for PvE currently. In the level 35 row, Cheat Death is a great safety net for rogues. If you mess up a mechanic, you'll keep playing the game because you'll cheat the death instead of dying right then and there. It's also pretty good at soak in certain mechanics because you can immune them with Cheat Death. In the level 40 row, this is more of a utility row. You can go Prey on the Weak, where stuns will enhance the damage the ads take. You can go with Shot in the Dark for free energy on cheap shots if you do need to stun someone in Mythic Pluses. Pretty useful if you do need stuns for your group. Night Terrors can also be okay if you're not running Crippling Poison in your rogue. This row is not really super influential. You can honestly pick whichever one you enjoyed the most. In a level 45 row, Enveloping Shadows is the default choice for all PvE content, giving you a second dance charge to use whenever you want to, which means more damage output, and also letting you recoup dance charges back quicker. Currently, Subtlety plays into 2 dance windows for a more sustained heavy PvE playstyle. Maybe at some point Dark Shadow will take ahead in terms of more bursty gameplay, but right now Enveloping Shadows is numerically better. In a level 50, generally Master of Shadows is the single target raid option. Getting 25 energy over 3 seconds is pretty good because you're using lots of Shadow Dances that cost almost no energy, so your energy regeneration and usage inside of dance windows is going to be extremely smooth. If you are playing some Mythic Pluses in AoE, you can pick Secret Technique, but also you can pick Shuriken Tornado. I've been messing around with Shuriken Tornado ever since some of the patch 9.1 buffs to your Shuriken Storm, which is more likely to crit and be more consistent on enemies. So I've been playing with Shuriken Tornado a ton. This one synergizes really well into the current build that I'm playing with Subtlety. I definitely think you should consider both Shuriken Tornado and Secret Technique and simply pick the one that you like the most, but Shuriken Tornado has been the more popular choice as of recent. For a Subtlety rogue stats, it's always a good idea to sim your character and put on the best gear in the top sims and raid bots. But if you're someone who wanted a general guideline of which stats are the best to look out for when you're building your rogue, agility is going to be your #1 stat. Agility is massively impactful. It's going to increase the damage of all your abilities. It is the best stat to stack for, so item level generally is going to win in most situations. But if you're looking for secondary stats, critical strike and versatility seems to be the best two stats for Subtlety rogues. There's a slight alteration where the haste and mastery are better for single target or AoE, but for the most part in both single target and AoE, in raids and mythic pluses, crit and versatility are your two best secondary stats. I also really quickly want to take a look at the conduits, some of the different conduits you might want to run on your rogue, or at least consider running. So the 3 conduits that you are probably going to run in your potency conduits, unless your soulbinds have some other benefits to them, are going to be things like plan execution, where symbols of death is going to increase your critical strike chance. Very useful for, well, more critting more often, but also means it's great for AoE damage and the consistency with your shuriken storm, or spreading the find weakness debuff, which is going to mean more consistent damage in AoE. But also just being able to crit more often in single target means you're doing more damage. This ends up being probably the most highly valued conduit at the very start, followed by deeper daggers, which increases the damage of your eviscerate, the shadow portion, and black powder, the shadow portion, which again great in single target, great in AoE. Following Stiletto Staccato, this one being a little bit better for single target, being still pretty decent in AoE. Shadow Techniques now also reduce the main cooldown of your Shadow Blades by 1.6 seconds, so you can get your blades back quicker. This one is particularly strong if you are playing Venthyr. However, Stiletto Staccato actually jumps a little bit ahead, and Deeper Dagger Stiletto Staccato end up being better for Venthyr, because with Venthyr you can also play Lash and Scars. The other Covenant conduits should be simmed because they might actually be pretty good, but Lash and Scars for Venthyr in particular just works great for AoE as well as in single target content. Kind of just a must-have conduit, especially with some of the different legendaries that you can run. Some of the different legendaries you can run on your Subtlety rogue: we have Akari Soul Fragment, which is technically a really solid choice for pure single target, but in most cases rogues will end up committing to other legendaries to increase their overall damage. Having a legendary that's just good only for boss fights is not as good as a legendary that's useful for bosses as well as for mythic pluses, so most rogues end up going finality because it ends up being more practical, increasing your eviscerate, rupture, and black powder damage, which again covers all kinds of content. Another one that's also pretty decent in PvE right now is Mark of the Master Assassin. During your stealth, that means out of stealth and during your vanishes, but not during your shadow dances. However, you will have 100% crit. Getting that clutch of vanish into a massive burst of damage can still be pretty good, and if you're someone who's PvP in a Subtlety, there's a good chance you already have this legendary crafted from the last season or maybe in prep for this season. Even though it got nerfed heavily in PvP, I still see quite a lot of rogues utilizing Master Assassin. If you are a Venthyr rogue, however, you will be crafting Obedience. It seems to be the best legendary for Subtlety rogues right now, generally. Flagellation will not only give you haste, but also now will this legendary give you versatility for half the value for each stack. Each common point spent while Flagellation is active also decreases its cooldown by 1 second, taking your Flagellation ability from a 1.5 minute CD down to a minute, which lines up really well into the Subtlety playstyle, where Subtlety basically has a little bit of damage every 30 seconds, so every other 30-second burst you will have a Flagellation together with it, combined together with Shadow Blades, and ends up being kind of like an interesting cooldown reduction mechanic that this spec has gained through legendaries and now with some of the conduits. So Subtlety ends up feeling very different in patch 9.1, especially for the PvE side of the game. For single target damage output for Subtlety, in the opener you'll want to go with, and this is a Venthyr opener, Shadow Strike into a Slice and Dice, Shadow Blades, Dance, couple of Shadow Strikes into a Flagellation if you're Venthyr, otherwise just follow up into a Rupture, and then continue Shadow Striking to generate common points into Eviscerates. Use 2 dances in the opener, and afterwards you kind of want to start syncing cooldowns together. During dance, you'll want to sync it up together with Symbols of Death, and use as many dances as you can up until almost full common points, if not completely full. Try not to overdraw on common points. Use Eviscerate if you don't have any other buffs or debuffs to manage. Maintain Rupture on a singular target. Don't let your Slice and Dice fall off, and if you don't need to refresh either one of those abilities, consume all your common points into Eviscerate. It's also advised that outside of your dance windows, this is where you'll really want to maintain that rupture on the enemy and slice and dice. It's not a good idea to refresh those finishers while you're dancing, or it's not optimal. You would rather use as many eviscerates as you can during your burst window with dance, but having rupture ticking down and slice and dice active on your character prior to it is going to help you net out more damage. In a 3 target, 4 target, 2 target cleave situation, it's going to be slightly different. You are going to switch on 3+ targets from spamming Shadow Strikes inside of Dance Windows to spamming Shuriken Storm. Shuriken Storm is an ability that will generate a common point per target hit. During this window of 2 target, 3 target, 4 target, you'll want to maintain Slice and Dice on your character at all times, and Rupture on as many targets as possible. During your dance windows while you're spamming Shuriken Storm, you will most likely be proccing Find Weakness on every enemy. At 3+ targets, you'll be switching your finisher from Eviscerate to Black Powder, which is kind of like an AoE version of Eviscerate. So you maintain Slice and Dice, still maintain Ruptures, and at 3+ targets, swapping from Eviscerate to Black Powder. You also can use, during your dance windows, a Shadow Strike to guarantee proc Find Weakness on a target. It's not going to feel as optimal as pricing Shuriken Storm, but maintaining the debuff of Find Weakness on the enemy, where your physical abilities do more damage to them and going through more armor, is on a higher priority than just generating the common points. But the most fun you'll have with Subtlety is the ease of rotation in 5+ targets. You are going to press Shuriken Storm as your main common point builder, and that's it. You're not going to press Shadow Strike at all. And for the most part, at 5+ targets, you're going to maintain Slice and Dice. At 6+ targets, you'll just forget about it completely, and you'll use all of your common points afterwards into Black Powder. To the point where, in 8 target situation, you are literally going to press all your cooldowns, Symbols of Death, Shadow Dance, Shadow Blades if you want to, Shuriken Storm, into Black Powder. Over and over and over and over and over. This is where the Shuriken Tornado talent comes into play that will automatically use 4 Shuriken Storms in a row. So then you can use Black Powder just to get yourself free finishers over and over, just spamming into enemy. The playstyle ends up being really easy, and that's kind of something I could say about Subtlety, is the playstyle feels really good in pure single target. It feels good at 5+ targets, but at the 2 target, 3 target, 4 target, it's a bit more micromanagement gameplay. It's still fun, and I think it offers quite a lot of variety of different kind of rotational gameplay to your Subtlety Rogue, in Mythic Pluses in particular, because every single trash bag, depending on how many mobs are in, you're going to approach it slightly differently. How you manage the 8 target clump together by the tank versus how you manage bosses is also going to be quite variant, and I really do like this about Subtlety gameplay. Some of the tips I have for you as a Subtlety Rogue for PvE content in general, because I get these questions all the time. First of all, always be auto-attacking. Subtlety, you have yourself a passive where your auto attacks have a chance to give you a common point and energy. This passive has been buffed for patch 9.1, and especially if you're raiding and you have a Windfury Shaman in your party, this is where you'll actually get quite a lot of common points and energy, which is big damage overall, big value. Always be auto-attacking your targets, even if you're just AoEing. Yes, as a rogue, you should be using Shiv. You should be using Shiv in Mythic Pluses because that comes with the de-enrage mechanic, whether you put a numbing poison or crippling poison on it. Numbing poison for your offhand poison should be something you would use in raids, but crippling can actually work out pretty well in Mythic Pluses if your tank is going to kite for any reason whatsoever. You should try to not overcap on common points as a Subtlety Rogue. That can be sometimes difficult because so many of your abilities generate more than one common point. I mean, Shuriken Storm by itself will generate a common point per target hit. It's okay if you are overcapping in common points sometimes, but just make sure that you're not generating too many common points, especially on single target situations. Try to spend them before you generate more common points. Try to put your CDs together every 30 seconds and try to kind of, as you're learning your sub-rogue, if you're new, play around your Symbols of Death. This is where a good portion of your damage will come from. It also comes with 40 energy whenever you use it. So playing into that 30-second window, lining up cooldowns around your Symbols of Death is something that a lot of sub-rogues can start with at the very beginning. Again, as I said earlier, if you're someone who's playing the game casually, this should be all the information you need. But if you're someone who's really thinking about seriously playing rogues, then investing into sims or even looking up some of the different logs for how rogues are approaching different situations, whether it is dungeons, whether it is raid fights, is also going to be advisable. There's a lot of things that you can find yourself just by comparing yourself against other rogues and how they're performing, what are they doing. But this guide will get you at least the basics and some of the more advanced stuff to get yourself started in playing rogue for patch 9.1. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I really do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts about this guide. What do you think about Subtlety? Are you thinking of picking this spec up as an alt or a potential main for 9.1? Let me know your thoughts. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see all of you guys in another video.